Hey everyone, and welcome back. My name is Hawk, and today we are going to be going over some useful information that both composers and film directors and game designers can use to kind of understand how compositions work, how sound design works as well. A lot of general information that you can use to understand the process of creating sounds and implementing them into either film or game, or even just how music and sound is created. This is going to be the first episode of a series I'm planning to break down a whole bunch of stuff in the audio section of the creative field and kind of explain how it all works, break it down so that other people can understand it. It's not that complicated once you get into it, really, but you'd be surprised what you can learn. So let's hop into it here. Now, today we're going to be going over something called a DAW, otherwise called DAW. That stands for Digital Audio Workstation. Basically what that means is it is a software where you can enter in audio or MIDI information and process it, put all these crazy effects on it, do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Basically do whatever you want to it. Now, there are several DAWs out there. The one I have just pulled up in front of me is called Ableton. This is Ableton 10, their most recent version. I also have another one in my arsenal called Nuendo. Now, Nuendo is often referred to as the bigger brother to Cubase, which was created by Steinberg. Now, Steinberg has made a lot of stuff in the audio field as well as a couple other fields, but Cubase is one of their more common inventions. A lot of composers use it, a lot of sound designers use it, and it is overall their more widespread software. Nuendo is called the bigger brother because it is used for a lot of more high-level products, a lot of high-level projects as well. It is also great for working on AAA films. A lot of high-grade composers will use Nuendo or another DAW that is at the same tier as Nuendo. And Ableton is more like one of your entry-level producer DAWs, singer-songwriter DAW. It is the software that electronic artists will use a lot of the time. And a lot of, if you're just entering into the industry, you're looking into all these softwares, Ableton's probably one of the ones you're going to hear of. But we're going to go into these DAWs separately on their own video entries at some point. That is a promise. But for now, we are just going to look at what is DAW, what can you do in a DAW, what other kinds of DAWs are there, because we've already found two. What else can we find? Now, you may have heard of Ableton, even if you've only dabbled in the industry a little bit, because it is a very, very common DAW to use. It's used by a lot of DJs, electronic music artists, people who just needed a software to use, found Ableton. It is also downloaded illegally a lot. I do not recommend doing that because you should support the industry that you're in if you are getting a DAW. But there are lots of other DAWs out there, some of them with free options that work just as well. One of them is called Reaper. This is another one of your DAWs that you may have heard of. It is what I would call a great starting point DAW, great overall DAW. It doesn't have really any specializations for any certain functions. It's your standard DAW. It works great. I know a few friends that use this. Another one, of course, is Studio One by Presonus. This is another great DAW, similar to Reaper. Each DAW brings its own functions to the game. Each of them has their own set of stock built-in plugins, which we will go over at some point as well. This is another sort of like Reaper. It's one of the more popular ones. It's a lot used by a wide variety of people, whether they're new to the industry, just started, have been in it for a while. This one seems to hold a lot of popularity with both ends of the spectrum. Now, that is close to the same level as Ableton. There are a lot more DAWs between like what I would call like an entry-level DAW and like a pro tier. Like a lot of the pros use it, and there's a reason a lot of the pros use it kind of DAW. Now, one of the DAWs that is very common to find in AAA studios nowadays is Pro Tools, which is created by a company called Avid. Avid makes a whole bunch of audio gear, audio software. They are really ingrained in the industry. This is because they were one of the first companies to start making hardware and software back when this was all getting super popular, back in like the pre-2000s era. Pro Tools has been around for quite a while, and they use it in a lot of AAA studios. Now, I'm not saying it is the best DAW out there. There are a lot of options to look into, and a lot of composers, sound designers, sound mixers will use a wide variety of tools. And it's good to do your research, but this is just one of the ones out there. If you worked on a major film, composers out there, sound designers out there, sound mixers out there, you've probably worked in Pro Tools, right? Pro Tools or Nuendo, because Nuendo is the other one that a lot of composers will use, and sound designers and sound mixers now as well, who don't work directly in a AAA studio. A lot of high-tier independent composers, sound designers, sound mixers, audio guys who use a DAW, I have found, will use either Pro Tools or Nuendo. That is not to say that they will not use anything else, because they very well might, but those are the more common ones. Now, a DAW, digital audio workstation, now that we've explored a few of them, let's just go into the basic functions of one. For the film guys, game guys out there, this is how a sound designer, a composer, a sound mixer will normally go about creating and mixing your audio, is in a DAW. There are two kinds of things you can put in a DAW. There are audio clips, very standard. You can drag pretty much any audio clip you want into any DAW you want. It is not, oh, I can't drag this kind into this kind. They're all pretty generic. You will have audio, and then you will also have MIDI tracks. Now, MIDI tracks can be used for a great deal of things. Basically, what MIDI does is it sends a signal from your computer to a virtual instrument or a trigger of some kind to play back a certain sound on that instrument or trigger. A lot of composers out there use Kontakt, which is a instrument library. Well, not an instrument library. It holds instrument libraries. It is a sampler. It is a sampler that is dedicated to recording, creating, and editing virtual instruments. Now, there are a ton of virtual instruments out there, literally an assload. It's so many that they have gotten thousands of videos on thousands of different libraries already. And it's not something we're going to hop into today, because I'm just showing you like the basics of how audio and stuff is created. But Kontakt is used by composers and sound designers for its ability to trigger sounds and samples. Now, each DAW also comes with its own set of in-stock tools. So as in, you get the DAW, you download the DAW, it comes with its own set of other small softwares that can be used to help edit audio, create sounds, really play around with it. Ableton has stock plugins, Nuendo has stock plugins, Reaper has stock plugins. Every DAW has some stock plugins. The amount and quality of those plugins depends on the DAW and the people who created them. A more skilled programmer who's more skilled at playing around with audio and coding will know how to make high quality plugins for their DAW software. Ableton is an interesting case because it has actually a sort of collective pool where people can go and make their own plugins to share with other people called Max for Live. Nuendo does not have this feature. However, if I'm just to make an audio track here, it still has a wide variety of in-stock plugins that you can use. And these VST ones down here are personal ones that I've owned and bought and use. Now, if you are working as a composer, sound designer, editor, or if you're interested in learning more about the industry, this is what you're going to have to learn first, day one. And if you're a film director, game designer, what have you, and you need audio, this is stuff that will be very useful for you to learn as well, because this is how audio files are made compatible for games. And these are the audio settings you're going to need to do for your DAW. Now, the audio that you export from your DAW, your finished product, English is hard, has to have certain settings to be integrated to video. One of the reasons DAWs like Pro Tools were very popular is because they made it very easy to export audio that was compatible with video very early on in the game. Nowadays, any DAW can do it. But here's what you have to do. If you are new to the audio industry, learning about DAWs and want to learn how to integrate audio to video, or how to integrate audio to video if you're on the other end and you made the video, right? Audio fits best to video if it is at 48 kilohertz sample rate. I'm not saying that anything else will not fit, but it has been tried, tested, and proven that 48 kilohertz fits best with video. There are multiple reasons for this. The frame rate of the videos, I know those vary, but 48 generally works great for all of them. The refresh rate, just overall a lot of techie stuff, 48 kilohertz is the way to go. Sound designers will go way above that. For sound editing and stuff, they'll go up into the hundreds of kilohertz, 92 kilohertz, 180, 250, what have you, just because that gives them more play with the samples. But then they will export a finished product to sync to video, and that will be down to 48 kilohertz 99.9% of the time. 32-bit float is what my session is set to right now. If you look at the processing precision, that is kind of like, that is getting into bitrate. And bitrate is also very important. If you're syncing audio to video, you want your bitrate to be 24 bits or 16 bits. 16 bits is, of course, a slightly lower quality, but you can't really hear the difference between 16 and 24 unless you really, really try and you have really, really good ears. The reason for this is because a higher bit rate is just a higher quality audio sample. At 16 bits, you can effectively say that you have a quality audio sample. Once you start getting lower and lower, it just exponentially decreases and decreases the value until you have something that sounds like an 8-bit game track, which, believe it or not, is still exported as a 16-bit audio file or a 24-bit audio file. It's just they make it sound 8-bit in the sound design. Now, bitrate is very important if you're syncing to video or syncing to audio or just exporting audio in general. You want it to be 16 or 24 or 32 if you can get there, if your DAW supports it. Not all DAWs do. Another important thing is timecode. video people out there, you know what I mean when I say time code. Time code is very, very important if you are getting into this and writing music and doing sound design. Not all DAWs support time code. Pro Tools does. Another reason it is used a lot in AAA studios is because it works great with video because it has time code functionality. Nuendo also has it, as you can see up here. I just switched it to time code. It also has bars, beats, seconds, feet, frames, whatever have you. Ableton does not really support time code because Ableton was designed to be a producer's DAW. It is a DAW that is used for electronic music, for writing individual tracks. If you're just writing a song, Nuendo will do it great. Ableton will do it just as great. And any DAW can do that really just as great. Ableton has a lot of features that make it more streamlined and easier for people to learn how to use it, and easier for people to play around with their sounds and just really hop into it, which is why Ableton is used a lot for writing music. But it sucks for video. No matter what computer you've got, no matter how good your specs, or no matter how streamlined you've made things, the video engine in Ableton is substandard to work on really big projects. Video engine in DAWs such as Nuendo, Pro Tools, and others. I personally have not used many other DAWs for their video engine other than Pro Tools and Nuendo. I imagine Reaper has some sort of video engine in it. I imagine Studio One has some sort of video engine in it. These video engines work wonderfully, but you need to have a functional timecode setting to use them to their full potential. Now, what timecode is it is the marking of the hour, minute, second, and frame of each frame in your video. In that order, timecode will go hour, minute, second, frame. If you are making a sound effect and you are putting it into a DAW, you need timecode to sync up with the frame exactly. You need your audio to sync up to the timecode of where that sound needs to be. Sound designers, you know this. New film directors, or just starting out film directors, just starting out game directors, you may not know this. Even in games, the sound needs to sync up, although in games that is not done with timecode unless it's in a cutscene that is pre-rendered, in which case timecode is very important, and understanding how it's implemented in a DAW is useful. Now, if you are composing music, timecode maybe not so important, but still very important, because you maybe want the music to swell here or die down here. And it's very, very important to map out the timecode with the exact bar and beat of your music so that you can line it up. And that is how music producers, composers, and film directors and film creators all manage to mesh together, is through how well a DAW can use its timecode. And of course, its video engine. You won't see people working on AAA films in a DAW that does not have a great video engine. It just doesn't happen. Now, there are lots and lots of features in DAWs that we will not be going over in today's video, just because each DAW basically warrants its own walkthrough of plugins, etc., 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 right? Plugins, audio processing, techniques to use with video. The main goal of this series is going to be walking through both composers who are new and upcoming, or maybe just want to learn a few things, brush up on skills, as well as film directors, game designers, people who don't create audio but need audio for their projects, to kind of understand how audio is created and implemented into their products. This is the first video of the series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be giving more in-depth, detailed DAW walkthroughs for the DAWs that I own. I do not own every single one, but I own a couple. We'll get there. Pretty much this is going to be part of my weekly upload schedule. So if you guys are interested, please stay updated. I will be releasing a new video every week, whether it be one of these walkthroughs or whether it be something else. And I will see you guys next time. If you have any questions or you want me to include something in one of my next videos, please comment it down below. I will come and look at it and I will include it if it is relevant to the video of that day. I promise. Have a great one, everybody. I hope you found this informative. I will be going over some more things at another time. Bye-bye.